Longtime lurker, first-time poster. So I, female, 32, feel like I completely embarrassed myself and my husband, male 35, last night, and I'm honestly still processing what happened. We were at our neighbor's graduation party, having a perfectly normal time when his ex-wife showed up out of nowhere, and I basically dragged him out of there like a crazy person. Am I the idiot for making us leave immediately when she arrived? Okay, so some background. My husband and I have been together for 4 years, married for 2. He has a daughter, she's 21 now, from his first marriage. We met right around the time all this was happening with his job and his daughter. But looking back, I sometimes wonder if that's part of why he's never wanted to rehash those details with me. The ex-wife, let's call her Karen, has always been a lot. She has this thing where she inserts herself into situations when she thinks her daughter needs something. And honestly, her boundaries around my husband's life are pretty much non-existent. I should probably mention that I have trust issues when it comes to people lying about important stuff. My dad walked out on our family when I was 12 after hiding financial problems for months. Then, my first husband hid credit card debt from me for 2 years before I found out. So yeah, I get weird when people aren't transparent about things, especially money stuff. Anyway, my husband lost his teaching job about 4 years ago. The timing was really bad because his daughter had just gotten pregnant at 17, and he was taking time off to help her with appointments and just being there for her, you know? He's told me the basic timeline, that he was taking approved personal days to help his daughter, but somehow the school administration thought he was just skipping work. But whenever I ask for more details about how that miscommunication happened or what exactly went wrong during the investigation, he gets that look on his face and changes the subject. He just says the whole school situation was complicated and won't really explain what happened. Here's where I might sound paranoid, but I swear there's more to it. Around that time, Karen was acting really strange. She kept showing up places where we'd be, asking weird questions about my husband's work schedule, and she had this nervous energy. And right before everything went to hell with his job, she was doing the same thing. The hand-wringing, the weird, intense looks, showing up in our business when she usually kept her distance. So last night, we're at our neighbor Mike's daughter's graduation party. We'd been there for like an hour. I was talking to Mike's wife, and my husband was helping Mike with the grill. Everything was normal. Then I see her. Karen just shows up carrying a bottle of wine. Mike greets her, and I overhear him mention something about his sister meeting her at a college orientation. Apparently, Mike's sister goes to the same college where Karen's daughter is starting grad school or something. I honestly don't know because my brain just kind of stopped working. The second I saw her, my stomach dropped. And guys, she was doing the same thing again. Her hands were shaking when she opened the wine. I could see it from across the yard. She kept glancing over at us with that guilty look, and she had this nervous energy. It was exactly how she acted 4 years ago before my husband lost his job. I couldn't handle it. I excused myself from Mike's wife mid-sentence and walked over to my husband. I grabbed his arm and told him I wasn't feeling well and we needed to leave right away. He suggested maybe I should just sit down for a few minutes, but I was already pulling him toward Mike to say goodbye. I made some excuse about maybe food poisoning, which was stupid because we'd literally been eating the same food all evening, and basically dragged my husband to the car. He was pissed. The whole drive home, he kept asking what was wrong with me and why I was so rude to Mike and his family. I tried to explain that Karen's presence just made me really uncomfortable, especially because she was acting exactly like she did before the whole school situation. But he just got more annoyed and said I was being paranoid about his ex again and that I don't understand the full story. Which, okay, you're right. I don't understand the full story because you won't tell me what actually happened. Every time I ask for details about why he lost his job, he deflects or changes the subject. And now his ex is randomly showing up at our neighbor's party, acting sketchy as hell, and I'm supposed to just pretend everything is fine. I mean, maybe I overreacted. Maybe she really was just there because Mike's sister invited her, and I'm reading into things that aren't there. But honestly, after what happened with my dad and my first husband, I've learned to trust my gut when something seems wrong, and everything about last night seemed wrong. My husband's still barely speaking to me this morning. He says I embarrassed him and that I need to get over my issues with his ex because she's always going to be part of his life through their daughter. But am I crazy for thinking it's weird that she just happened to end up at our neighbor's party and that she was acting exactly the same way she did right before our lives got turned upside down 4 years ago? I don't know. Maybe I should have just sucked it up and stayed. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was there for a reason, and that reason had nothing to do with Mike's sister or college orientations. Am I the idiot for making us leave immediately when I saw his ex-wife at the party? Edit: since so many people are asking about the teaching job thing, I honestly don't know all the details because my husband won't really talk about it. All I know is that his daughter got pregnant her senior year of high school. He was taking time off to help her with doctor appointments and stuff, which should have been fine, right? But somehow the school administration thought he was just skipping work without permission. He says the personal days were approved, but then there was some kind of investigation and they fired him for being unreliable or something like that. What bugs me is that he was a really good teacher. He loved that job and his students loved him. The whole thing happened so fast, and he's never really explained how it went from approved time off to getting fired. Whenever I bring it up, he just says the administration was looking for an excuse to get rid of him because of budget cuts. But that doesn't really make sense because they didn't eliminate his position. They hired someone else. I probably should have mentioned this in the original post, but our finances have been pretty tight lately. He started a construction company after losing the teaching job, and it's been rocky. His brother works for him, and they're doing okay, but it's not steady income like teaching was. I've been checking our bank statements more than usual. Yeah, I know that's probably my trust issues showing, and I've noticed some small weird stuff lately, but he says I'm being paranoid about money again. The thing that really gets to me is how he's been checking his phone constantly when he's stressed, more than normal. And with money being tight and now his ex showing up randomly, I just have this feeling that something's about to happen again. Maybe I'm wrong and I really am just being paranoid, but the last time I ignored my gut instincts about someone lying to me, I ended up divorced and broke. I keep thinking about how she looked last night. That same nervous, guilty expression she had 4 years ago, and the way she kept glancing over at us. I don't know, maybe she really was just there for innocent reasons and I'm reading too much into things. But after everything that's happened in my life, I'd rather look crazy than get blindsided again. Now for the first update. I found a foreclosure notice in our mail and confronted my husband about our finances. Turns out the rabbit hole goes way deeper than I thought. Holy crap, guys. I woke up to 500 messages asking for updates. And honestly, I wish I didn't have one to give you. Things have gotten so much worse since my last post about his ex showing up at the party. So remember how I mentioned our finances have been tight and I've been noticing weird stuff in our bank statements. I'd been checking our shared checking account and noticed small discrepancies, but I didn't realize he'd been managing our savings and mortgage payments from accounts I rarely looked at. Well, 2 days after that mess at Mike's party, Saturday morning, my husband was at some work emergency and I went to check the mail. There was this envelope from our mortgage company marked Urgent Foreclosure Notice in big red letters. I'm not gonna lie, I just stood there staring at it for 5 minutes. My hands were literally shaking. I know some people would say I shouldn't have opened it since it wasn't addressed to me specifically, but after everything with my dad and my first husband, I couldn't just sit there waiting for another financial disaster to happen. The notice was dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. We're apparently 4 months behind on our mortgage, and they're starting foreclosure proceedings. I felt like I was going to throw up. When my husband got home around 2 p.m., I was sitting at the kitchen table with the notice just waiting. He walked in all sweaty and dirty from the job site and immediately saw the paper. His face went completely white and he just froze. I asked him if he'd seen this before, and at first he tried to claim he'd never seen it. Straight up looked me in the eye and said, "I have no idea where that came from," but I wasn't buying it. I asked him again, and finally he admitted he's been intercepting the mail because he didn't want me to worry. Intercepting. That was his actual word. He's some kind of spy protecting me from information about my own house. I demanded to see our bank statements right then and there. He kept trying to say we could talk about it later, but I wasn't having it. So he finally pulled up our account on his phone, and guys, our savings account had like $300 in it. $300. 6 months ago, we had almost $9,000 saved up. I asked him where the hell our money went, and he got this weird look on his face. You know that look when someone's trying to come up with a story on the spot. He said his mom has been having expensive medical procedures and he's been helping her pay for them. Now, I should mention that my mother-in-law is like 68 and has always been pretty healthy. She's never mentioned being sick when we talk. So I asked what kind of procedures, and he got all vague about tests and specialists and how insurance doesn't cover everything. I couldn't sleep that night. Something felt really off about the whole medical story. My husband was acting exactly like my first husband did when he was lying about the credit cards. That defensive thing where they give you just enough details to sound believable, but not enough to actually verify anything. So yesterday, I called my mother-in-law. I know, some of you are probably thinking I'm a psycho for checking up on his story. But honestly, after being lied to about money twice before, I wasn't taking any chances. I just casually asked how she was feeling and if she needed anything. She sounded totally confused and said she's been feeling great. When I mentioned that we'd been worried about her medical expenses, she was like, "What medical expenses?" Apparently, she hasn't had so much as a checkup in months. So yeah, he lied, again, about where our savings went. I was sitting there trying to figure out how to confront him about this when my brother-in-law showed up at our door around 7 p.m. looking really stressed out. This is my husband's younger brother, who works for the construction company, and he usually avoids any kind of conflict, but he was clearly worried about something. He asked if he could talk to us, and my husband immediately got defensive, like he knew whatever was coming wasn't going to be good. My brother-in-law said he couldn't handle the guilt anymore and needed to tell me something. Turns out my husband has been using money from the construction company to pay rent on an apartment across town for his daughter and her 3-year-old son, the same grandson I thought was living with his father in another state. Let me repeat that. My husband has been secretly supporting our grandson while telling me the kid was living with his dad, a 3-year-old kid that he's been financially supporting while our own house is about to get foreclosed on. According to my brother-in-law, my husband has been paying $1,200 a month for their apartment, plus helping with other expenses. His daughter works part-time at a daycare, but obviously that doesn't cover much. The brother said he's been feeling horrible about keeping this secret, but my husband threatened to fire him if anyone questioned where the company money was going. My brother-in-law only decided to tell me because his own wife has been asking questions about their job security, and he realized the whole construction business is probably going under. He didn't want his family to get caught off guard when everything falls apart. I honestly don't even know how to process this. My husband has been playing happy families with his daughter and grandson while lying to me about money and letting our house go into foreclosure, and his ex-wife showing up at that party. I'm starting to think she knew something was about to come out. My husband and I had a massive fight after his brother left. He kept saying I wouldn't understand because I don't have kids and his daughter needed help after her baby's father left. He said he was trying to protect everyone and didn't know how to tell me about the grandson because he thought I'd be weird about it. Which, okay, I probably would have been weird about suddenly finding out about another grandkid, but lying about it and using our money to support them while hiding foreclosure notices, that's not protecting anyone. That's just being a coward. I'm staying at my sister's house tonight because I honestly can't even look at him right now. 24 hours ago, I thought our biggest problem was tight finances and his sketchy ex-wife. Now I find out we're losing our house. He's been lying about money for months, and there's a whole secret branch of his family I didn't know about. I keep thinking about how paranoid I felt at that party when I saw his ex. Turns out my gut was right that something was wrong. I just had no idea how wrong. I don't know what to do here, guys. Part of me understands wanting to help your kid, but the lying and the money stuff, it's exactly what destroyed my first marriage. I can't go through this again. Edit 1. Since people are asking, yes, I did consider that maybe his daughter really needed help, and he was just trying to be a good dad. But there's a difference between having an honest conversation about family finances and literally hiding foreclosure notices while lying about where thousands of dollars went. Edit 2. To everyone saying I should have known about the grandson living with his daughter. Yes, I knew she had gotten pregnant years ago, but my husband told me the child was living with his father in another state. I've met his daughter maybe 5 times in 4 years, and she never mentioned having the kid with her, which made sense since I thought he was living elsewhere. Edit 3. For those asking about the construction company, it's just my husband and his brother, plus like 2 other guys. They do mostly residential repairs and small renovations. Business has been slow lately, which makes the missing money even worse. Edit 4. Yes, I'm planning to talk to a lawyer. I learned my lesson about protecting myself financially after my first divorce. I'm not letting someone else's lies destroy my credit and my future again, even if I love them. Edit 5. To everyone asking if his ex-wife knew about the financial problems, I honestly have no idea. But her showing up at that party and acting all nervous makes a lot more sense now. Maybe she knew the whole secret arrangement was about to blow up. Now for the second update. You were all right about this getting worse before it gets better. And honestly, I don't think I was prepared for how much worse. So it's been about 3 weeks since I found out about the apartment payments and my husband's secret grandson situation. Most of that time has been quiet, just logistics and radio silence. But this past week, everything exploded again. I'm still staying at my sister's place because honestly, I can't even look at him without getting angry about all the lies. We've been texting about logistics and stuff, but basically radio silence otherwise. I thought the worst was behind us. I was wrong. So wrong. Last Tuesday, I got this really weird call from Michelle. She's this woman I know from when my husband's daughter went to the local high school. We're not super close, but we're Facebook friends and stuff. She called me around 6 p.m. and asked if she could tell me something. Apparently, my husband's ex, Karen, had shown up at some school fundraiser event that weekend. Michelle said she seemed really drunk and was kind of making people uncomfortable. But the weird part was that Karen kept asking different people about fixing mistakes from years ago and specifically mentioned my name a few times. Michelle said Karen was asking people how to make things right when you've really screwed up someone's life, and whether telling the truth would just make everything worse. And then she kept saying stuff about how she ruined everything for her daughter and grandson. I asked Michelle what exactly Karen had said about me, and apparently she kept mentioning how I deserved to know the truth about what really happened and that she'd been carrying this guilt for years. Michelle said it was really uncomfortable because Karen was obviously wasted and getting emotional in front of people who barely knew her. But here's what really freaked me out. Michelle said when Karen was leaving, she heard her on the phone with someone saying she needed to call me and finally tell me what she did to my husband. I hung up feeling really weird about the whole thing. Like, what could she possibly need to confess to me about my husband? We all already know she's been boundary crossing and inserting herself in our business for years. But then I remembered something from my first marriage. When my ex-husband was lying about the credit cards, I'd started recording our phone conversations because he kept changing his story about where the money went. It saved my ass during the divorce when he tried to claim he'd told me about the debt. I know this probably sounds paranoid, but I went and tested my phone's recording function that night. My Android has this setting where you can automatically record calls from specific numbers or unknown numbers. I set it up to record anything from Karen's number, just in case. I figured maybe she'd call and make some drunk, rambling apology about the graduation party thing or whatever. I wasn't expecting, what actually happened? So Wednesday night around 11:30, I'm at my sister's place watching Netflix when my phone rings. Karen's number. I almost didn't answer because who calls that late, but something told me I should pick up. She was completely wasted, slurring her words, crying, the whole thing. The conversation started with her just sobbing about how she's ruined everything and needs to fix what I broke. I kept asking what she was talking about, and she just kept crying about her daughter and grandson. Then she said something that really scared me. She told me she needed to tell me what she did to my husband because it's all her fault we're losing our house. I asked her what the hell she meant, and she starts going off about how her help 4 years ago destroyed his career and created all our financial problems. At first, I thought she was just drunk rambling, but then she said, I lied to his principal. Guys. She told his school principal that he was unreliable and skipping work. I'm not even kidding. She actually called his school and told them he was taking unauthorized time off and seemed unstable because she was freaking out about people finding out about her daughter's pregnancy. The whole 45-minute call is basically her confessing that when my husband was taking those approved personal days to help their daughter with doctor appointments and stuff, Karen panicked about it becoming school gossip. So she called his principal, pretending to be a concerned friend, and told them he was lying about having permission for the time off. She said she thought the principal would just talk to him privately or maybe give him a warning. She had no idea that schools take reliability accusations seriously enough to fire teachers, especially when someone claims the teacher is being deceptive about approved time off. So my husband lost his teaching career, a job he loved, because his ex-wife decided to protect their daughter's privacy by lying to his employer. The whole time, she's crying about how she never meant for him to get fired and how she's been carrying this guilt for years. She kept saying she was just trying to keep people from talking about their daughter at school and thought they'd just tell him to be more careful. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband spent 4 years thinking the school administration was just looking for an excuse to fire him. He blamed budget cuts and office politics. Meanwhile, his ex-wife deliberately sabotaged his career and let him believe it was his fault. By the end of the call, Karen was begging me not to tell him because it would destroy what's left of their family. She kept saying that knowing the truth wouldn't bring his job back and would just hurt everyone more. I did not promise her anything. The next morning, I called her back. She answered sounding like death, probably massive hangover, and I played back about 30 seconds of her confession, just enough to prove I had the whole thing recorded. She completely freaked out, started begging me not to tell anyone, and saying it would ruin her relationship with her daughter and grandson if the truth came out. I told her she had 48 hours to tell my husband what really happened, or I'd play the recording for his daughter and grandson myself. Looking back, maybe that was harsh, but I was so angry thinking about how my husband has spent years blaming himself for losing a job he loved, all while his ex-wife knew exactly why it happened. Karen kept asking if I could help her figure out how to tell him, and I basically said she created this mess by herself and could figure out how to fix it by herself. 2 days later, yesterday, she called my husband at work. I only found this out because he came home around 2 p.m. looking completely shaken. He told me Karen had confessed about calling his school. He was furious, like angrier than I've ever seen him. But here's the thing. He was mad at me too for recording her and manipulating the situation. We had this huge fight where he said my recording and threatening her was just as manipulative as what she did originally. He said I was using people's mistakes against them, the same way my dad used to do with our family. That really hurt because he knows how much my dad's actions affected me. But I told him I was protecting our marriage from more lies and that he should be grateful someone finally told him the truth. Then, and this is where everything gets worse, his daughter Emma happened to be at the house when my husband called me about Karen's confession. I'd driven over to get some of my things, and we were having this huge fight in the driveway when Emma came outside to see what was wrong. She overheard her dad yelling about her mom lying to his school and basically learned that her mom cost him his dream job. Emma completely lost it. She called Karen and basically cut off contact, said she couldn't believe her mom would ruin someone's career to protect her when she never asked for protection. So now Emma won't talk to Karen, which means Karen can't help with babysitting anymore. And apparently she'd also been helping Emma with some expenses, something I just found out about. Emma can't afford the apartment without both Karen's childcare help and this additional financial support I didn't even know existed. My husband is furious because now his daughter and grandson might have to move back in with Karen, which Emma absolutely doesn't want, or move in with us, which we can't afford since we're literally facing foreclosure. The whole situation is a complete disaster. My husband's ex-wife destroyed his career 4 years ago out of some misguided attempt to protect their daughter. I used that information to force a confession that ended up destroying their family relationship and making our financial situation even worse. I honestly thought I was doing the right thing by making sure he knew the truth. But now everyone's mad at everyone, and we're further from solving any of our actual problems than we were before. I don't know what to do here, guys. Part of me still thinks he deserved to know why he really lost his job. But the way it all played out, maybe I should have just kept the recording to myself. Information to add. Since a lot of people are asking about the recording, yes, it's completely legal in my state to record phone calls as long as one person, me, knows about it. I learned this during my first divorce when my lawyer told me to document everything. My ex-husband kept changing his story about financial stuff, so recording our conversations saved me during the settlement. To those asking why I didn't just tell my husband about the call instead of forcing his ex to confess, honestly, I was scared he wouldn't believe me or would think I was making it up because of how much I dislike her. Having her confess directly meant he couldn't claim I misunderstood or was being vindictive, but obviously that backfired spectacularly. For everyone wondering about Emma and the baby, she's 21 now and the little boy is 3. She's been living in the apartment my husband was secretly paying for, but without Karen's help with babysitting and some financial support, she can't afford it on her part-time daycare salary. Emma absolutely refuses to live with her mom after finding out about the teaching job thing, so we're trying to figure out what happens next. The construction business barely supports us, let alone adding 2 more people to our household.